Caruso. Oh, let's see.
All right, Sarah, tell me about your early years growing up.
Early years growing up.
Some of the first things you can remember.
Huh?
Some of the first things you can remember when you were a child.
When I was a child, I remember my father dying. I was 5 years old then, 6 years old. And my mother was a widow for 10 years. Then she remarried, married Anthony Caruso, Vinny's father.
What year was this, would you say?
Gee, you're going back, way back.
The 20s, the 30s?
Let's see, my dad died in 1918. And then 10 years after, she was 28. No. I don't even know how old my mother was when she got married the first time, because she come from Italy, you know.
How did she come over on a boat, or how did she get from Italy to here?
I really don't know.
Don't
I
know.
couldn't tell you.
Too far back?
Yeah. Oh, I know. I got a picture of her and my dad in a car in the back room there.
Tell me about, like, I remember you telling me in the past about how you had to watch the other kids, your brothers and sisters, because your mom was single and she was working.
Yeah, she was working. She worked.
And tell me about that. Wasn't there a memory with where you saw a gangster?
Huh?
Isn't there a memory where you saw a gangster in the street and someone got shot or something like that?
No.
Don't remember that.
No.
Tell me about the war.
The war.
What you remember about the war?
I don't know anything about the war, really. All I know is my dad died during the war in 1918.
How did he die?
Well, it says they had some chemicals in the air during the war, and all those that went out early, they all died. My mother had a cousin. She went out to babysit for somebody, and she died. All those people that went out to work early, they got that whatever was in the air, and they all died. There were about 5 of them that died.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Didn't you work with some planes during that time to build the planes?
Oh, in the time? No, in 1929. In 1929, I started automobile factory. Worked for Hudson Motor Car Company.
And did you guys switch to planes or so at some
And
point?
then I worked on the B-29.
How long did you do that for?
How long? I worked 20 years all together, 25 years all together, you know, between the automobiles and the airplane.
And did I thought when you worked there, did that affect your hearing because of how loud the planes
Yeah,
were?
the loud. That's why I got hearing aids.
Because of the planes. What do you remember about the Depression?
Depression? Well, during the Depression, everything was cheap. Loaf of bread was 10 cents. Then you had it during the Depression, like if you wanted a grocery, you had to go to the grocery store. If you wanted meat, you had to go to the butcher shop. If you wanted medicine, you had to go to the drugstore. At that time, that's all they had is just, medicine.
Didn't they used to have like ice block where they deliver chunks of ice to you and milk? It was different, right? Then they give you.
Right. They used to bring the milk at the door, leave it out there. Then in the winter time, the cream would come up on top, and the cover would come up. The iceman used to bring the ice on his back. Bring it up whenever you wanted ice. You put which called ice. We had a sign that said ice on there, and then the iceman would come over the ice, put the ice up over his shoulder, and come up and bring it.
Must have been pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Big chunk of ice.
That time they didn't have no cars. They had buggies. a horse and a buggy.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
they would ride a horse right up to the house and.
Yeah, they'd go right up to the doorway, then they'd bring up. That time was horse and buggy. There were no cars on the road.
Yeah. Do you remember when the first cars came around? Like when Ford started releasing the cars or anything? When was the first time your family had a car?
My family never had a car.
Never had a car.
No.
All right, tell me about how you and Uncle Frank met.
Huh?
How you and Uncle Frank met.
Aunt Rose had, not your grandmother, another Aunt Rose had a friend, and she brought the friend over and introduced me to the friend. We were over your grandma's house. She brought him over there. That's how I met him.
What did he do at the time? Do you remember?
Huh?
What did he do for a living at the time?
What did I do for a living?
What did he do?
Well, what did he
Uncle
do?
Frank.
He worked at Edison in the coal yard.
For his entire career?
Yeah.
And how old was Uncle Frank when he died?
How old was he? 78.
78. He died in 1990.
Yeah.
90 was it? Yeah. Okay. Tell me some stories about Uncle Frank.
Stories about Uncle Frank?
You got to have a lot of them.
Yeah, well, he was good to everybody, and he was a carpenter. He helped everybody around, that needed help. He helped Sharon a lot, building, and all that stuff. That's what he used to do, after he retired.
I remember him helping Joey a lot, learn
Yeah.
how to
Uh-huh.
use a lot of tools. Is that how you learned how to use a lot of that stuff yourself? Yeah, I remember that. Tell me about Uncle Vinny. Just some memories you have of Uncle Vinny. Because I personally remember coming here all the time, and he'd always have gum or candy for me out
Yeah.
on the table.
Yeah. Right.
I remember hearing him yell all the time when Grandma was around, but when I came around, he would always be real nice then.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
He always sneak a smile in when he was yelling.
Yeah, he was pretty good,
And he was in the Korean War, correct?
Yeah. Joey, too, was in the Korean War.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Now, your brother Joey, tell me about his situation. Didn't he pass away early on, or
Yeah,
did he die in the war?
yeah.
Didn't
During the war.
How did he die?
He fell. I don't know if the boys were fooling around. He fell in that, I don't know what
A
you would
tank or
call
something?
it.
Some sort of tank or a ship?
Yeah, whatever it was, and he hit his head on there, and that's how he died.
How old do you think he was?
When he died? Well, he went into service when he was 18,
Oh wow.
because he figured at that time, they said he wanted to go in there, service 2 years, and that way he'd come out. He volunteered.
So he died, and Uncle Vinny survived the war,
Yeah,
correct,
right.
and came
yeah.
home. And then he lived in this house for Uncle Vinny at that point, or?
No, we lived on, over here. Not here on Gratiot there, where Merolis is there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And did he build this house, Uncle Vinny, or did he buy it?
Grandma had it built.
Oh, your mother?
Yeah,
Okay. So she had it built.
yeah,
Then he moved in here at some point,
yeah,
and then at that time you lived in Detroit, correct?
right.
What, you left Detroit in like 1992, was it? It's kind of recent, wasn't it? In the 90s? After Uncle Frank died? And then Uncle Vinny died, then you moved in here, right?
Yeah, right.
But before that, you lived in Detroit for a long time.
Yeah,
Right.
I was.
How did you like that house?
What house?
The one in Detroit?
The one in Detroit, I loved it. It had all the convenience in the world. Not here.
Yeah. Did you just have a garden there or anything?
Huh?
Did you have a garden there?
No.
No garden.
No.
Flower beds?
Huh?
Flower beds?
Not too much.
Tell me about Aunt Nancy.
Huh?
Aunt Nancy.
And Nancy.
Some of your memories of her.
You're going way back. I forgot half of this stuff.
Yeah. Or, Well, there's so many of them, you know, Aunt Nancy, Uncle John,
Yeah,
Aunt John,
right.
Uncle Vinny, Uncle Frank,
Yeah.
and my grandpa, which I really never met, was Sandy, correct? His
Uh-huh.
name was Sandy. He was a paint. He worked in a paint. He had his own paint business or something, or he worked for Chrysler, didn't he?
Christ.
Chrysler. What about Aunt Nancy's husband?
Joe,
Yeah, I didn't really know him either. What did he do for a living?
I don't know where he worked, really, to tell you the truth.
Gotcha.
After you go, then I'll remember everything.
Okay. We can do another one of these. It's not a big deal. Tell me about your mom.
My mom?
Yeah, because I don't really know much about her. Like, what's her background? Was she 100% Italian? Was she?
Yeah, Italian. She couldn't speak English or nothing. She couldn't speak English or nothing. At that time, they had streetcars in the middle of Gratiot. And she used to take a car, get on the streetcar to go to work.
And she, is your family from Sicily?
Yeah,
Is that right? Okay.
yeah, Palermo.
So she came over at some point, and then,
My father lived in New York. He went back to Italy, and he knew my mother when they were kids. And he married my mother and came back to the United States.
with her,
Yeah, with her.
and that's how she got back over then.
Yeah, right.
And at that point, your father passed away. And do you remember how he died, or no? Was that the air thing?
Like, what you call him? He died, like I told you, during the war.
Oh,
like
with the air?
1918.
Okay.
He
That was...
I was there when he died. My mother happened to get a doctor, and the doctor says, you know, we do all we could do, the doctors. But he says, I'll never forget those words. It's up to God. If God wants him, he'll die. Otherwise, he won't die. And I remember my sister Nancy and I and Rose, we were sitting on there and we were crying. And my mother's cousin was over and she says, take the kids over to your house. Because my dad was dying, see. She didn't want us to see him die.
Do you remember that being was that like a turning point, would you say, in your childhood?
Yeah, sort of.
Because then you had to grow up quickly, or?
Yeah. Have to grow as a, orphan.
Yeah.
We went to school as orphans that time. And the orphans didn't pay nothing. The tuition was 25 cents a month at that time. And you couldn't afford it. So what we used to do, help the nuns sweep up the we felt funny because we couldn't pay the money. So we used to help the nuns sweep up the floor after all the kids would go to school.
And then, so your real father died.
Yeah.
And then how did your mother meet Aunt Jen's dad, or Uncle Vinny's dad, correct?
How did she meet him? Let me think how she met him. His mother and father knew my mother and brought him over to meet my mother, which he knew her, from Italy. And that's how she met him and got married.
And so he was your father too then for how long? When did he die?
He died in 1918.
He died in 1918?
1918.
Uncle Vinny's dad?
No. Oh, you mean Uncle
Yeah,
Vinny?
Uncle Vinny's dad.